Oh, hello. Welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to have a bit of a ramble about digital rules for Warhammer. So, a couple of weeks ago now, the new Sisters of Battle Codex released, and those of you that know, Sisters of Battle is my main army for Warhammer 40,000, right? It's the thing that I love the most in 40k, and I have probably 3,000 points or so of Sisters miniatures, probably about 1,800 or so points of that's painted, right? So, it's my main army, my main 40k army, the one that I love the most. So I was pretty excited to get the new codex, right? Picked up the codex, sat and read it for about 2 hours, and then that's it. It will go on the shelf now, and I'll probably never touch it again. Not that there's anything wrong with the codex, right? The rules are great. Actually, if anything, they're a bit overpowered. And I actually quite like the lore, a bit rehashy. The hobby sections, I think, are really good and interesting. And I love looking at the pictures of the sisters versus the word bearers that was running through the thing, because my wife also plays word bearers, and it's pretty cool. But the main reason I bought the codex was for the digital codex code, right? I know that some people must use the codex as a rules reference still, but I really don't. Right? It's like, this is your coffee table law book for your faction for this 3-year period, and also here's a code for the actual thing that you're going to use, game by game by game. Some people must use the codex for the data sheets. You basically, if you play 40k, you now have 3 ways to get your data sheets, right? You can look in your codex; they're in the codex. You can buy the cards, right, as an add-on. And get all the rules that way, or you can use the app, right, the official Warhammer app. So you got those 3 official ways, and then I'm sure there are, there's Wikipedia and other things that you can do, but there are those 3 ways officially where you can get your data sheets. Now, I don't really care to look at the paper codex, the rules. If anything, it's funny, I'll look at other people's paper codexes on YouTube when they're doing man read book and going through, because I want to know the rules before I get them. But once I actually have them, I'll look on my phone in the app to get the rules, and I just won't buy. They're £20. I won't pay the 20 quid now for the cards. I don't see the point of it. The app is good enough, right? I used to be a codex and cards kind of guy, belt and braces kind of guy, right? And the app is now good enough, in my opinion, that you do not need to buy those cards as well, especially if you're already buying the codex. Now, an interesting thought experiment would be, could you just buy the cards and not buy the codex, and have it? Because I think you do get the detachment rules on a fold-out card. I don't know. But the app is obviously superior. It's automatically updated, right? And it includes a list builder. So, therefore, it's automatically married up to the points. So the points, for those of you that don't know how 40k codexes work, it's kind of mental. They'll come with the points in the back that are out of date on release. And then before you actually get your codex released on the Saturday, they did a points update on the Thursday that had the actual points for the codex that wasn't out yet, but had been previewed on YouTube, so people kind of knew what they were talking about. A bit mad. So I don't have to get that document open and my codex and cross-reference the 2 things. So that's cool. I like that. Now, I know some people will be like, Phil, you're being a shill. I'm not a shill, right? I wish I were a shill. Shills are paid. I'm just an enthusiast, right? But I know some people are going to say, I don't want to pay for the official app. I just want to run down mainly one thing that I think some people believe that isn't true. A lot of people think you need a Warhammer Plus account to use the official Games Workshop app. You don't. At one point, they looked like they were going to make that definitely have to be a thing. The Warhammer Plus subscription unlocks the ability to have more than one saved army list. And you might think that makes it crippled. Not really. Army lists in 10th edition 40k are very quick to put together, right? It's not like it used to be. If you played 6th, 7th, 8th edition 40k, you've got memories of sitting there in Battle Scribe just trying to get the points to balance and taking off melter bombs and sticking on hunter killers and putting on... Because you don't have that level of granular points, right? It's very, very easy to go, I want one of them, 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 and I guess I'll have that enhancement. And it's pretty quick. So, obviously, yeah, I pay for Warhammer Plus. I have got like 4 lists on the app at the moment. But you could definitely use it with definitely use it to make your list for a game, play that game, and then make it a new list for the next game. You could definitely do that, right, without having to pay for Warhammer Plus. Absolutely. And if you, important thing to note for anybody that's really into Age of Sigmar, when the app first launched, you could trial it for free, and you could make like 4 or 5 lists, and then those lists didn't get deleted. So if you did do that, you can go back and edit your lists infinitely without having to pay for the subscription as well. So if you really like Age of Sigmar, when the app first comes out, run out and download it and make like 20 lists if that's what you want to do. Like, I actually don't think it's that useful, but that is another option. If your 40k army doesn't have a codex yet, then you can download the app right now for free and have a proper look through it and make your own judgment, right? You don't need Warhammer Plus. If you have a codex, you have to register the codex code that comes with the codex, right? Now, if you don't want to buy the codex and you just want to get all your rules for free, and buying a book every 3 years is anathema to you, other things exist. Wahapedia, they're not as good. They're not as good. I'm not going to pretend they are. Like, Wahapedia is a pile of trash. It is so full of horrible, scuzzy, scummy adverts, slow loading times, Cloudflare error pages. Like, I do not want to read in the comments all the people go, oh, we just use Wahapedia. Like, it is free, but it's like, it is trash tier. I don't know if there's other free 40k like rules reference resources. The thing is, it's not properly definitely legal, right? So therefore it's hosted in Russia, which doesn't care about copyright legislation in the West, like, at all. But it's very slow and very difficult to use for that reason. So yeah. But you can do what I've seen people do. I've seen people so like certain they didn't want to pay for any rules that they literally have play these games with like image links of like potato camera pictures of codex pages, right? And if you really can't, but I genuinely think codexes are important. Because I remember being a child, and this is the thing I will say over and over again, I will shout it from the rooftops every single time people say, why does Games Workshop still make codexes? I remember being a child and getting my codex and reading it from cover to cover, and cover to cover again, and cover to cover a third time, right? And I see the children in my Warhammer club, in my school, children who do not generally read books for pleasure, much to the chagrin of the English department, and they will sit at a classroom table, and I've seen them, they will read their codexes. They will go, oh, I'm just reading my Space Marine codex. Oh, isn't this piece of lore really cool? And yes, we as veterans may well flip through and go, this lore was basically in the previous codex, this hasn't changed. Like, admittedly, when I was reading all the sisters' lore, and I was like, oh yeah, Convent Prioris, Convent on Terra, I was flicking through, going, oh, I feel like I know this. That's true. But codexes are a great way of pulling new young people into Warhammer, right? They just are. And I know that sounds unintuitive, because you'd think, surely the Gen Alphas and the Zoomers will be on their phones all the time because they're the digital natives, and they'll just... All I can tell you is they're not. Kids don't actually want to sit there or chat on their phone, they watch videos on their phone, they watch TikToks on their phone. They don't actually want to sit and read like lore and rules on their phone, generally speaking. They'd rather have a book, from what I've observed. So I think codexes are important, and you can see that the codex is essentially framed as a beginner product, because they've started to put things back into the codexes. Like, if you have a 40k codex nearby from 10th edition, and you go to the colour section, you'll find there's a really nice page that's like, this is a melter gun, right, and this is a plasma gun, and this is a las cannon, and this is for all the weapons in your army, right? Because that's one of these pieces of assumed knowledge. Like, I literally remember when I was in a Games Workshop and an older hobbyist explained to me how you could tell the difference between a las cannon and an autocannon, and pointed out that the las cannon always has the barrel at the 45 degree, except like on a Lehman Russ where it is flat off, but generally speaking, you can tell a las cannon from an autocannon by those kind of things. New players into the hobby have not really got a source for that sort of wisdom until now. They've put it in the codexes, they put it in the official source. So I really support anything they do to keep the printed codexes going, because we need more people wanting to pick up paper books and read them, as in the children, right? And these are kids who are often now not reading for pleasure anyway, and so it's great to have that there for them. And I'm happy to buy for an army a codex every 3 years to get my code. I'll read it through, I'll put it on the shelf, I'll get my codex code, and off I'll go. To me, that seems like, if you really want to go around, like, I don't want to pay 30, 40 quid for a codex, I could buy an extra tank for that. Be fine, you pays your money, you takes your choice. But I don't find the argument particularly compelling. And from my perspective, I'm now giving Games Workshop less money, because previously, and you can say that I'm a whale, and I am, right, and I'll make the whale noise, but that was more of a seal noise. I was previously buying codex and card pack, right? So I would buy the codex and then 20 quid of cards on top. And now I think their app is good enough that I don't need to buy. So they're actually making less money off me. Right? I'll leave it with you. I know people are going to have strong feelings. There's probably already rage in the comments. How dare you suggest that we want to pay Games Workshop for rules? We're already paying for the miniatures. The rules should just be free. That's how you get bad rules, guys. That's how you get... But I've said my piece. I'm moving on with the presentation. I think it works for me. That's all we'll say. So, we've got to think about... We're talking apps. We've got to think about what the app is actually for. And as far as I can see, and we're going to... I know it's a Kill Team channel. We're going to talk about Kill Team. We're getting there. Just using 40k as a jumping off point for a minute. So as far as I can see with 40k, you've got basically 3 reasons why you might want an app. List building, tabletop reference, game state tracking, right? I'm going to go through each of those, explain fully what I mean, and iterate all the ways I can think of that you might want to do that, right? So if you're building a list, that's when you're coming up with your army list. Obviously mobile app, right? You can use a desktop app, so things like, we used to say BattleScribe. BattleScribe's a whole thing. Probably shouldn't use BattleScribe. There's some really good web-based apps. New Recruit. I'll try and remember to throw a link in the description. New Recruit's really good. I use New Recruit for Old World and Horus Heresy, right? Because those games are what I would now term the boomer games, and you really need a full desktop list builder to really immerse yourself into the list building for those games, because they have all the granular points, right? So I do prefer a desktop app for those older games. You can do it yourself with a spreadsheet. Okay, fine. Yeah. Or you can do it yourself with a pen and some paper and make a calculator. Or you can add it up in your head if you don't mind maths errors, or you're just really good at arithmetic. That's fine. And then separate the list building, we got tabletop reference. So this is the act of wanting to go, oh, bugger, what is the strength of Castigator Battle Cannon again? I can't remember. And this is me. I can't remember numbers for anything, right? Play against Zimbad. Zimbad never has to look anything up. He just knows everything. He knows all of his stats. He knows all of my stats. He knows all of the stats for all of the armies, whereas I cannot hold the number in my head, right? So this is looking those things up. And again, you got mobile app. This is where the data cards can come in, right, for tableside reference. You can flick through your rulebook, right, or I guess you could make yourself either on the computer or by hand like a crib sheet where you jot down like all your weapon profiles and all your basic profiles and some notes for rules. And sometimes people make really nice reference sheets, and then they put them on Reddit and things. And it's I used it for Kill Team for a while, where you get a reference, print it out like double-sided sheet with everything you need on it for that team, and that's quite good as well. And then we've got game state tracking, which is, it's kind of the other thing that people don't always think about. So by game state tracking, I'm talking about the victory points, command points, and any other resources that you're going to want to track. So for game state tracking, I really like the mobile apps out there. Now, the 40k mobile app, the Games Workshop official one, does not do this, right? And a good example of an app doing this job would be the excellent Kill Team Scorecard. Big fan of Kill Team Scorecard. Never play Kill Team without Kill Team Scorecard. I think it's really, really good for me. And if you've not seen Kill Team Scorecard, like, where have you been? It's like you just keep track of your CP. If you're using a faction like Novitiates or Salvager or whoever it is, it's like any team with an extra thing to track, it'll give you a tracker for those as well. You can do your objectives, secondaries and primaries, and all this sort of stuff. Really like Kill Team Scorecard. Or another option is, and this was just this yellow one. I don't know what this is called. This is just the first image that came up when I searched for them. You can buy like a kind of bespoke tool for tracking all your points. So this one's for 40k. You've got a round tracker. You track your CP. You can keep track of your primaries and your secondaries, and you can get little 3D printed like dice trays as well, where you balance the dice in them, and for different things. You can do that, which is fine. Yeah. You could just use some dice. So some people are like, right, this D20 is going to be the round number. This D20 is going to be where I keep track of my victory points. This is going to be where I keep track of my command points. And then these are going to be my like miracle dice or faith points or whatever else I might have track. And they just have an arrays of dice around them, which is fine, as long as no one's going to pick up and roll your dice. Like, you definitely have, the inkling that occasionally somebody will, oh, sugar, I just rolled my command points. How many of those do I have? Or you can use pad and pencil, like, a spiral pad and just a pencil, and just be like, writing stuff down. That's an option too. And I've kind of arranged this table in tiers, right? So you've got mobile apps for all three. And then like the second tier is like, well, I don't want to use a mobile app, but I want to buy something fundamentally. So that's like the second tier down. And then the third tier down is like, well, I want to use a tool, but I want to use a tool I probably already have. Right? So either the Codex, because I think most people buy the Codex, don't they? I already discussed that, Phil. Some people don't like to buy Codexes. I know. Well, I'll get over it. Okay. Generally speaking, though, you probably have something where that's your Imager folder full of photographs of somebody else's codex or whatever it is, but something. Presumably you have access to the rules in some form, right? You got your Google Sheets for your list building, and then your game state tracking is just like dice on stuff, right? Or all of that can be replaced, if you really want to do the hard work, by the people that just want to work, and they can just do the whole thing with a pen and a paper. That's also a thing. Now, one little wrinkle here is I don't like using the same app for rules reference and game state tracking. Because if I'm using an app like the Kill Team Scorecard that you can see on the screen, I don't really want to navigate away from the app in case it loses everything. And because I want to be able to show it to my opponent at any time, right? Because it's tracking all of their stuff as well. I don't want to move away from it to check how many, like, what strength an X's missile has. So I'm currently in a position where when I'm playing 40k, I'll use the official app for my list building and my tabletop reference, but then I tend to just balance dice on things for tracking the game state, right? I've thought about in the past buying a little bespoke tool. I don't play that much 40k. I've thought about buying a little bespoke tool to track those things as well. Meanwhile, in Kill Team, weirdly, I go the other way around. I use the Kill Team Scorecard on a device, right, to track the game state. And then I have tended to use crib sheets from the internet for to keep track of what my team does. Or lately, like with the more recent teams, you get the cards, don't you, for Nemesis, Claw, and all the teams from this season have come with reference cards, so I use those. But yeah, it's a weird one that I found myself in this position of using one thing for one game and one thing for another game. But I'm a big fan of the tabletop reference part of the 40k app. Now, I don't know when they patched this in. This was not in here at launch, right? And so if you looked briefly at the 40k app when it first came out and decided, oh, this isn't useful, and then have not looked at it since, go and have a look at it again. Like I say, it's free to go and play with it, right? And what you do is you come down here to Battleforge, you make your army list, and then you want to click onto this button up here. This one here where my laser pointer is. And this takes you to the command bunker. And the command bunker is your reference for the game, and it's really good. So this is for my sister's 1,000 point list that I've been working on. And it literally will just give me a link. Click on any of these, it'll take me to the data sheet for just those units that are actually physically in my army, right? So I don't have to go through the whole thing, finding the ones that I don't have, right? And then it's got my enhancement. I've taken one enhancement in this list, Righteous Rage, right? And it gives me the full text there of the enhancement. And then it's got all my stratagems, right? And the phase that I can use them in. So in the command phase, I know I can do a command reroll, or I can do Insane Bravery. In the movement phase, and it tells me I can do Carry Forth Faithful, which is one of the sister stratagems that's to do with moving. I think it's like you can move transport, like it's full, like an advanced roll of a 6, something like that, and then you can disembark or something. I can't actually remember, but it's something along those lines. Or I've got the core stratagem as well at the command reroll. So that's all there, broken down by the phase in the game when I can do it, right? And then it's got my detachment rules as well, right? For the detachment. And it's got the army rules to be activated. Literally everything I could want from the codex is available on this big one screen. And nothing that I don't need. Everything I don't need is abstracted away from me. And yet, you can't do that with the book. You can do it with a deck of cards, because before the game, you can put all the cards that aren't relevant to you back in the box. Sure. But I just really like the app. I find I'm quicker finding things on the app than I am going through a card deck. Plus, as somebody that believes in buying the codex, the app stuff's free, because the code's included in the codex. If I wanted to buy the deck of cards, that would be an extra 20 quid. And that's just my perspective on the thing. Like, people are like, oh, but Games Workshop paywall their app. Well, yeah, but I've been buying the codexes for my army since I was 9. Like, I'm going on that rant again. Someone in the comments who refuses to buy books will have to explain it to me. And I'm sure I'll listen to their perspective, and maybe I'll come away wiser. I think I've put my perspective across. But yeah, I really like this. And again, part of why I'm making this video is I think a lot of people looked at the 40k app and they went, oh, I have to have Warhammer Plus. Not so. You can make one army list at a time without Warhammer Plus. And oh, it doesn't have a decent reference. And it didn't. At launch, it didn't have this. I didn't even know this was here until I got back into 40k and I looked. I'm like, oh, wow, there's a button for this. Oh, this is really cool. This is what I want the app to have. So this, for me, is cool. Really, really cool. And just to go back, because I remember something else I wanted to say, why do I prefer a mobile app over a desktop app? For list building, I don't, like I said, for every game, for games with really complicated, in-depth list building, like 30k and Old World, I actually do prefer a desktop app. But for 40k, Age of Sigmar, I prefer a mobile app because I can use it on the toilet. I can use it in bed. I can use it while I'm sitting in my office at work pretending to do something else. Okay? And it's just cool to be able to play around and look at lists and go, what, can I fit that with that and that? I don't know, can I fit that with that and that? Right? And even if you've got the free app, and you can only have one thing at a time in the app, you can still export the thing as text-based and post it to yourself on Discord or something and have that as a thing to remember. It doesn't take 5 minutes to tap it back in the app. Just an extra thought for you. Now, therefore, I'm really pleased that we know that Age of Sigmar seems to be getting an app that's identical to the 40k app. I'm going to be annoyed if it isn't. I hope it's exactly the same model of everything's free in the app to begin with. And then as you get an army book, you buy your army book, put in your code, and then everything continues being available to you once you put your army book code in. That's what I want. Not everyone is happy. People on Twitter are really mad. I think because they were there's a really clunky web-based builder thing on Warhammer community that's going away. Like I say, you can build one list at a time. This is what I really don't get. You can build one list at a time in the app here without a Warhammer Plus subscription. With the web-based one on Warcom, it had no facility to save your list other than like printing it or downloading like a PDF. So literally nothing has been lost, except that you'll have to buy your codex when it comes out, I guess. But to use the list builder, you were still going to have to buy your codex unless you were pirating it from something. And I don't. It's just the same rant, and I'm sorry, I don't understand. I've been teleported into this reality where people are unwilling to buy. Like, people have a lot of legitimate complaints about Games Workshop, but buying your codex once every 3 years, it doesn't actually register on my radar of potential problems that you could have. I'm really sorry if that's like, obviously, if we're not talking about people who can't afford to eat because we're playing Warhammer. Okay, we're talking about a game where people throw their disposable income at their enemy's disposable income. Like, you can buy a rulebook. Like, yeah, I admit that it sometimes gets out of in the bad old days when you quite often needed, like, well, this is my rulebook and this is my like random book with some supplemental rules in as part of like a campaign, and this is my Forge World thing, and this is that was annoying. But now we've got an app with a code. Yes. If you can articulate the problem with Age of Sigmar getting an app like this, or if you can articulate the problem with the 40k app, I would like you to explain it to me. Because obviously I'm so happy about it, and other people are so not, and I don't understand. But what about Kill Team? It's a channel about Kill Team, and we're on nearly the end of the video, and here comes the thought about Kill Team. So we don't have an official app, right? And that's a problem so far as whatever other tool I'm using, and we're going to talk about Kill Team Battle Kit, and it's superb. It's really good. However, it's not got that stamp of officialdom on it, and that matters a little tiny scintilla, but it does matter, because personally I still feel the need to bring my Kill Team paper-based Dead Tree rulebook to every tournament I go to and almost never take it out of the bag. But I'll tell you for why. And this is a true story. This happened to me at Notts Kill Team last tournament I went to, I think. I played against a guy, lovely chap, lovely game, lovely everything, not complaining. He was playing Kazakin. You know, I can't remember what the rule was. He did something wrong. And I knew it was wrong, and it wasn't like he wasn't doing anything to cheat. He made a mistake. And I knew it was a mistake because I happened to have mained Kazakin, right? And I think it was to do with the order of like when you can do a free dash and then something else. And I said, oh, sorry, you can't do that because da-da-da-da-da. And he had on his phone, and it was not this Kill Team Battle Kit. It was some other third-party thing which had output like digital tarot cards. And what had happened is the third-party person that had made these things had truncated, because we know that the official rules text is often quite wordy. They truncated the rules text for something, and the way they truncated the rules text, I wish I could remember what the actual concrete example was other than something with Kazakin. I realised that would lend my anecdote more weight. No one is more annoyed about that than me. But what had happened is they truncated the rules text such that, the meaning had become unclear. And so he showed me this thing, and I could totally see that from his thing, how he was reading it. And I was like, oh, okay, have you got the rule book there? Because I can just show you where it says, And he looked at me like I had 58 heads and went, oh, I don't have a book. Right. So eventually we found a different online rules resource. This still wasn't Battle Kit because that wasn't out yet. It may have been we went to KT Dash or Wikipedia or one of these other more well-known ones and found their version, and their version had literally written verbatim what was in the rules. And I was like, this is the rule. And he's like, oh, wow. And he went to ask like 8 friends, as people always do. And we came back and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry, you were right. It does work like that. And I'm like, cool. Carried on the game. It was a great game. We finished in time. No problems. But it just does strike me that, for me, if you that little stamp of officialdom, it helps. And I would neurotically feel like I still bring my core rulebook for Kill Team to every game as well. Bring the core rulebook and bring the book with the official rules in for the team that I have, and then I don't use them unless somebody's got a question. It's nice to be able to go back to the official gospel-y canon-y thing. I mean, and then of course you run into other problems like, well, this says, you've got this many attacks. It's like, well, yes, but then in the balanced data slate, so let's go on to Warcom and download the balanced data slate, and then let's work. And you hope it doesn't come to that, but I like to bring the receipts so that you can do that if somebody's going to be like, what about this? So, however, all that being said, this Kill Team Battle Kit, which I will definitely try and put a link in the description, it is amazing. So I've included a screenshot there of the Night Lords reference, and you can see it on the top. They've got, it says racial, but it's the core abilities, a list of all the operatives, tac ops, the ploys, and the equipment, and it's all there. So as tabletop reference, this is superb. Like, this is generally 10 out of 10 top tier. Now, it's not an app that you download, it's a website, and the website kind of looks littered tier on desktop because it's been formatted for mobile, which is all fine and good. It does have loads of other features that I don't need, like integration with ITC, so I can find out how near the bottom I am, which is great. And it has a really interesting thing, which is like a database of maps. And now, this is put together by the Spanish community, so you can see like the maps that Ace and his crew basically are playing on. Personally, I'm still at the moment using the Turning Point Tactics maps. I very much hope we're going to get some official maps in the next edition. But that map thing is pretty cool. It's good to have that database. There's also a tac ops picker. Now, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about that. I still kind of think I want my opponent to physically have the tac ops card, just because it, like, choosing your tac ops and putting them face down in front of you, and then being able to flip them over and say, "Oh, I've got that one," is a core part of the theatre of Kill Team, in a way. And I'm not saying I think my opponent's going to cheat with a digital app, right? But I like my opponent to have the physical tac ops cards. And I know for a long while you couldn't get them, and maybe that's an unreasonable expectation of me, but I do like that part of the game. It's the same with the scouting options cards, right? I love it where you pick, and I've got this one, and they go, I've got this one, and then you go like, reveal, like I like that. The problem with this is I'm now left I've not played a game with Battle Kit yet, because since Glass Half Dead, for it was he, did a really nice video. Go and watch Glass Half Dead's video as well. Since he did a really nice video about like, Battle Kit is this new thing, and it's amazing, and it is. And I haven't actually played any Kill Team since then, because Zimbad is not like well. He's not dying. He's just got like an energy level issue, right? And it's just like, I haven't actually. I want to get a game in with Battle Kit as my main reference thing to see if it actually speeds up my play versus shuffling through the cards. But then I end up wanting to use two devices, which is fine. I have a phone and a Fire tablet, but I just feel a bit silly. A bit absurd, being the guy that rocks up with two electronic devices to the game of Warhammer. One to run the dashboard, and one for your rules reference. And, in an ideal world, I don't like to use my phone at the wargaming table, because I feel like I might get a notification and then feel compelled to check it, and then my opponent might feel disrespected. Which is why I bought the Fire tablet, to reference digital rules, and it's not I don't connect it to anything, it just runs, right? So yeah, I just think that maybe the point at which you're turning up to a game of toy soldiers with two electronic devices, like when I used to live and play in Games Workshop at Liverpool, the manager there at the time was a bloke called Steve, and he had a well-practiced spiel and this happened with alarming regularity, back when Warhammer stores were called Games Workshop, right? And someone's mum would come in saying, "Oh, do you have FIFA or Earthworm Jim or whatever it was, you know, the latest Call of Duty, whatever you were going for. And he would be like, oh no, we don't sell computer games here. We sell tabletop games. They're so much better for little Johnny than computer games because, you know, they're forced to socialise and read and do maths and blah, 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 blah. I don't know if he ever made any sales off the back of that, but it was this whole thing that if you were someone that lived in the store, you'd heard him say this a load of times. And I remember thinking, you know, later in life, like, Steve would not be impressed if somebody was rocking up to a Warhammer table with not one, but two electronic devices to assist their aid. There is something desperately tactile and interesting about the idea of Warhammer being a fully unplugged activity. And so on some level, part of me thinks, do the pen and paper, like I've derided them a little bit in this video, do the pen and paper guys have a point? Are they, I wouldn't want to do it at a tournament, but are they like experiencing a purer form of escaping from techno? Now I realise asking people who are willingly watching a YouTube channel, like, should we spend less time on? Probably is no. You probably think it's excellent. I tend to think it's excellent, but then I've got a big neon sign. I mean, I'm not the guy to say we should all go outside and recommune with nature, but it's just something that bears thinking about. Once you get to the point where it's like, well, logically, I need two devices. Have you taken a misstep? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Right, and there we go. So we're on to the final thing. So let me know for the 3 jobs of list building, tableside reference of rules, and game state tracking, what do you use? I guess for Kill Team it's only 2 jobs, but for those 3/2 things, what do you use? Like, leave me that. If I get loads of that comment, loads of those comments, like, I use this and this and this, or I use this and this, and this is my well thought out reason as to why, this would be such an amazing resource. So please do that. That'd be really cool. And again, also the other thing, if you explain to me why we don't buy codexes anymore, that would also be handy. Thank you to all my patrons. Patrons are not patrons, channel members, because I don't use Patreon, but I use the YouTube membership things. You can click join now and you can give me some money, and that's really helpful. And 2 such individuals who give me money are Mr. Nightfall and Mr. Massive Crit, who give me the maximum amount of money that they can every month. And so they get an individualised shout out at the end of every video. If you like listening to the sound of my voice and you like classic Bethesda open world RPG Skyrim, one of the ridiculous things I'm doing for members right now is narrating my way through a Skyrim playthrough. If that's something that you want to watch for a reason that is frankly unknown to me, you could consider membership. But thank you to those people who do. Thank you to all of the people who just subscribe to the channel. That's great help. We're trying to get to 10k subscribers. Join the Discord, do all the things. Wonderful. Have a great evening. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you again next time. Cheery bye.